Okay, I'm going to get started by welcoming everyone. Welcome to Wat Tung Yu. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. Today is actually the third day of a 5-day course that I'm teaching, and I know some of you guys might just be here for the morning, and that's fine. You guys are welcome to stay as long or short as you like, but just so you know that we're actually in the third day of a course that I'm teaching here, which is titled Harmony in Relationships. And what I'm sharing with students is all the teachings you need to be able to build harmony through your relationships. Because in the unenlightened state, you'll have a certain amount of disharmony in your relationships. And oftentimes people think that that's coming from the other person. And when you're having difficulties and struggles in your relationships, you might think that you need to change the other people. So you might be trying to change your mom and dad or your brothers and sisters, your friends or coworkers. But the way that you're going to get to harmonious relationships is by changing your own mind. So what the Buddha's teachings do is it helps you to focus on training your own mind, getting to the point where your mind is actually enlightened. What enlightenment is, where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you will no longer experience any discontent feelings. You will no longer experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of this can be eliminated from the mind through training of the mind. Again, it's not other people that are actually causing these feelings. It's actually coming from one's own mind. This is why you can actually solve it. So the teachings of the Buddha, they're not based in belief. It's based in you learning, investigating, and examining teachings, reflecting on them to independently verify whether they're true or false, and then you practice his teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life. So after our meditation, what I'm going to be doing is sharing this topic of true love, love without attachment, because oftentimes people don't understand what love is, and this is one of the reasons why they have so many difficulties in their relationships. If you're falling in love with people and out of love with people, you haven't yet understood what is true love. Or if you think that love is painful and it hurts, then you haven't understood true love. So I'm going to help you to understand this after our meditation. I'm going to be starting with loving kindness meditation, so you guys are welcome to join in this if you like. The way that I start this is with some chanting to be able to ease into the meditation. And I see some of you guys have the chanting sheets. You can get one if you don't have one yet. They're over there on the cabinet. You're welcome to help yourself. And for those of you guys that are online, you'll find this on our website at buddhadailywisdom.com. You can click on free books, and there you'll actually can be able to scroll down towards the middle of the page, and you'll be able to see the chanting sheet. The chanting during the lifetime of the Buddha was used as a way to commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally, because everything he taught was oral. They didn't have books, videos, podcasts, and things like this during the lifetime of the Buddha. So they used chanting or recitation of the teachings in order to be able to commit the teachings to their memory. So you can see from the origins of chanting that this isn't a rite, ritual, ceremony, worship, or prayer, or anything like that. There's none of those kinds of things associated with the teachings of the Buddha. If you're seeing things that are like rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer connected to the teachings of the Buddha, those are misunderstandings of his teachings. He never actually taught any of those things. Everything that he taught was to be able to train your mind, not to have rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer. So when we do these chants, we're actually doing them in order to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself, because we don't need to chant in order to be able to remember the teachings. We have books, audiobooks, videos, podcasts, and things like this to be able to study the teachings. So if you would like to chant along with me as I'm chanting, you're more than welcome to, because you're going to see that you're going to get more benefit out of the meditation as you're easing into the meditation. If you look at the English translations of the chants, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of that, I don't think the Buddha even created these chants himself. Because the Buddha wouldn't have walked around and said, here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me, because this would be ego or arrogance. And by the time you've gotten to enlightenment, you wouldn't be putting yourself above people and you wouldn't be putting yourself below people. So the Buddha wouldn't have handed out chants and said, hey, chant these chants to me out of respect for me. So I'm sure that these actually came from his students, either during his life or after his death. They probably created these, because if you learn from a teacher how to move from anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other discontent feelings to the peaceful and joyful mental state that is enlightenment, and this teacher didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, they were just helping you out of the kindness of their heart, you might actually have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person too. So that's why I think these actually came from his students. So you're welcome to chant along if you like. once we're in the meditation, I'm going to be guiding you in a breathing mindfulness meditation to start out with, just a short little meditation, just to kind of prepare the mind. Then after I'm done guiding you, there's going to be a short period of time of quietness where we'll just all be meditating. Everybody here at the temple and everybody online will just be meditating. Now, during this period of time of quietness, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds. You might hear a car go by, a dog barking, a bird chirping, someone here might cough or sneeze. This is all normal. If you're in meditation with a craving for permanent silence, when you hear a sound, you will cause your mind to be annoyed or frustrated. That's what's causing these discontent feelings like stress, anxiety, guilt, shame, fear, and all the others. The mind is craving permanence while you live in an impermanent world. Things are constantly changing. So if you're in meditation, understanding that the world is full of impermanence and that you're not going to be able to meditate in an environment where it's permanently quiet, when you hear that sound, you can be at ease, you can be peaceful, and just know that, yeah, this is the way the world works, that these sounds are going to arise, they're going to change, and then they're going to fade away. So there's going to be that period of time of quietness. Then I'm going to come back in with the guidance for the loving kindness meditation. This is a meditation that's designed to essentially rewire your mind to be more loving and kind. Because the unenlightened mind has a certain amount of bitterness, harshness, and hostility. And you can see when you're doing that in your relationships, that's all coming back to you. You'll never get to harmonious relationships through being bitter and harsh and hostile to people. And you might think that maybe those people deserve that, or you feel justified in your conduct. But this is actually coming from your own mind, and you can transform this. Because when you start being more loving and kind with the people around you, and you do that for an extended period of time, you'll be able to see that that's what's coming back to you. But as long as you're being bitter and harsh and hostile to people, and you're putting that out, that's what's going to come back to you. So this loving kindness meditation, you're going to hear me saying phrases, things like, may I be peaceful, may I be safe, may I be well, may I be free of all discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. When you hear this, you would like to repeat the phrase in your own mind on the out breath. And then you're going to see me go to another ring, like may mom and dad be peaceful, safe, well, and free of discontentedness. And when you hear this, you would like to repeat this in your own mind on the out breath. And then we're eventually going to get to all beings. We're going to go through some successive rings. Now, when we're doing this meditation, you're not trying to change mom and dad. You're not sending mom and dad loving kindness. You're not invoking some special power to come and change mom. It's not a prayer or anything like that. What this is doing is it's cultivating in your mind more loving and kind thoughts towards mom and dad and all the other beings that we're going to be meditating with. It's changing your mind so that now when you're around mom and dad and all these other people, you can be more loving and kind. And that's where it's actually going to transform your relationships. You wouldn't be able to meditate your way to the end of anger and frustration and all these other discontent feelings. You're going to need to, yes, use meditation to essentially fill up your mind and have it permeating with this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, active goodwill towards others. This is loving kindness. But you're going to need to go out into the world and be loving and kind through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. And the Buddha gives you guidance on this through all of his other teachings that you can learn. So you're going to hear me do these affirmations, and you can repeat them in your own mind on the out breath. Then we're going to go back to the breathing mindfulness meditation, and then we're going to come out of that with some more chanting. And that's where I'll start today's class, helping you guys to understand this topic of true love so that you can understand what this is. And then as you're practicing true love, you'll be able to see that you're experiencing true love. But if you're not yet practicing true love, you're not experiencing true love either. So this is the meditation that we're going to be doing, and you guys are welcome to meditate with us here at the temple, and everybody online, you guys are all welcome to join in for the meditation. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught for meditation: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And for the loving kindness meditation, we usually use the seated, lying, or standing positions. We don't usually use the walking position for loving kindness meditation. So oftentimes people are learning in the seated position, but you would need these other positions at different times in your journey to enlightenment because your body can't be in the same position permanently. It's not possible. So you're going to need different positions at different times. It's kind of like a tool belt, and you employ the different tools that you need at different times. So I'm going to give you some guidance guidance on the seated position to be able to help you understand this and how to find something that's more comfortable for yourself. But just understand there isn't just one way to actually sit, because that would be permanence, and we live in an impermanent world. Everybody's going to find different things to be comfortable. So what I'm going to share with you are recommendations or suggestions, things for you to consider. But understand you can sit however you like. That what I'm sharing with you is just something that you might consider and use it if you like. But if you come up with something on your own that you would like to use, you can use that too, as long as your body's comfortable. Not painful, but not luxurious, but comfortable in the middle. So you could be on the floor, in a chair. Maybe if you're at home, you're on a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can sit however you like. If you're on the floor, you might sit with some cushions under your rear. This will kind of help soften your seat a bit. And if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross-leg position, you might just choose to do that lightly. Because if your legs are real tight, it can impede the circulation and cause pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, again, allowing the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it. But again, it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. There's other options here. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or on their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. The same thing's true for anybody who's in a chair or a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can also sit however you like. Sometimes people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, but you can see me sitting here in a chair with my legs crossed, so this is an option as well. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. In terms of the upper body, it's helpful if this is erect, with the sternum up and the shoulders back. It'll help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. What meditation is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you'd like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you're real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be in the middle with the sternum up and the shoulders back, because not only does it keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, but it makes it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to do this chanting on the way into meditation. You guys are welcome to join in. Then I'm going to come back in with some guidance to be able to help you. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Bhutang Mahakavanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Namang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savakasangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakawa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakatoro kawitu Anutero purisa Dhamma sati satatawa manusarang Oto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Then I'll be back with more guidance on loving kindness meditation. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Continuing to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Repeat these phrases in the mind on the out breath. May I be peaceful. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May mom and dad be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May my family, friends, co-workers, and neighbors all be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all those who have caused me harm be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. May all those who I have harmed be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. May all beings, wherever they reside, be peaceful. May all beings be safe. May all beings be well. May all beings be free of discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. Now return back to breathing mindfulness meditation, focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Breathing in and out. อะหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเกวาโอตังมหาเกวันหังอภิวาเตมิสวากขาโตมหาเกวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิ สุปฏิปันโนมหาเกวะโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังโอโตภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to everyone. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. The individual that we refer to as the Buddha, he figured out how to attain enlightenment 2,500 years ago. And then he dedicated the rest of his life to sharing those teachings to help other people to be able to experience that as well. What enlightenment is where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you will no longer experience any discontent feelings. You will have eliminated all the anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of this can be eliminated from the mind through training of the mind. Oftentimes people think that the Buddha sat under a tree, he meditated, and then instantly got to enlightenment, and this isn't actually true. He shares this in his teachings. He talks about gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. He explains very clearly that it wasn't instantaneous that he got to enlightenment. So you can't actually meditate your way to enlightenment. You're going to need meditation, and that's important, but there's other things that you need as well. Because as you're training your mind, what you're doing is you're cultivating wisdom. And as you're cultivating this wisdom and you're training your mind, you're purifying the mind of certain pollutions that the Buddha discovered in the mind. He discovered these 10 individual pollutions that are in the mind, and then he figured out the tools and the techniques of how to eliminate them. And when you eliminate them from the mind, not only do you eliminate all those discontent feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others, but you'll notice that the mind's focused. You have concentration, clarity, and deep memory. You'll notice that your personal, professional relationships are really blossoming, that they're at ease, that you don't have that bitterness and harshness and hostility in your mind anymore. So you can be loving and kind with everybody around you, including yourself as well. Because oftentimes people have a negative self-talk or negative inner dialogue where you're degrading and diminishing yourself. And it's no fun to walk around life like that. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't even experience a bad mood anymore. It's physically impossible for you to experience a bad mood. So the way that you get to enlightenment is through the cultivation of wisdom. There aren't any rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer in the teachings of the Buddha, because everything that he's teaching you to do is cultivate wisdom. And there's no amount of rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer that'll cultivate wisdom in your mind. He's helping you to develop as a better and better human being. And the way that you do this is through learning, investigating, and examining his teachings. You then reflect on his teachings to see whether they're true or false through your own independent verification. And then you practice his teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life, and now starting to make decisions through that wisdom that you're cultivating. And this is where you see the condition of your mind in your life gradually improving. One of the things that people oftentimes lack wisdom about is this topic of true love. How to experience love without attachment. So because an individual doesn't understand what true love is, you oftentimes find it very difficult to have true love in your relationships. So I'm going to help you to understand this topic so that you can then practice more and more true love and experience more and more true love in your life. Right now, if you think that you're falling in love with people and out of love with people, this isn't actually true love. Or if you think that love is painful and that love actually hurts, then you're not understanding what true love is yet. So I'm going to help you to understand this topic so that you can integrate this more and more into your life, and then you can start practicing this with the people around you. And as you practice more and more true love for an extended period of time, you'll be able to see that more and more love is experienced in your life. As I go, I'm going to pause a few times and open up for questions to see what you guys would like to ask. If you guys are here at the temple and you would like to ask questions, we have microphones in the white bowl here in the middle of the room. You're welcome to help yourself to a microphone. We actually have some up here too in the front. You can take this microphone back to your seat, press the gray button, you'll see the lights come on, and you can hold it up to your chin and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And then if you would like to keep these microphones with you, you're more than welcome to, because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share it with the people around you. And then if you're not using it, if you could turn it off, this will be helpful so we don't get feedback through the speakers. And anybody who's joining online, you can ask questions through Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom by putting that in the comment section, or you can raise your hand in Zoom, unmute your microphone, and ask any and all questions you like that way. So as I shared, that if you think that love hurts and love is painful, you're not yet understanding what true love is. So I'm going to start with helping you to understand what's causing these painful feelings. This is a core central teaching of the Buddha. In fact, it's the very first teaching of the Buddha. It's called the Four Noble Truths. And with the Four Noble Truths, you can actually understand what is actually causing these painful feelings. Because what's happening is the mind in the unenlightened state is misunderstanding craving, desire, attachment as love. So if you understand what's causing these painful feelings and what is masquerading as love, then I can help you to understand what is true love. So in 4 simple statements, the Buddha helps you to understand what is the problem in your mind, the cause of this problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. But remember, there's no belief in the teachings of the Buddha. So you don't believe what it is that I'm sharing with you today. And you don't believe what I write in books. You don't believe what anybody else is saying. Because with belief, you don't know what's true or false. You're just believing it because somebody convinced you to believe it, or you convinced yourself to believe it. There is no belief in the teachings of the Buddha. It's about independently verifying the truth, cultivating wisdom, and now with that truth, with that wisdom, you can navigate the world more peacefully. So these 4 noble truths, the first noble truth, even though I don't have it up here, is explaining the problem. The Buddha explains that everyone in the unenlightened state will experience discontentedness. What discontentedness is conditioned feelings, where based on some condition, you're going to experience either a pleasant feeling, a painful feeling, or neither painful nor pleasant. Conditioned feelings are temporary. They arise, they change, and they fade away. And they're based on some condition. So if the mind experiences certain things, it will experience one of these 3 feelings. And the mind is actually shaken up when it's experiencing these feelings. The pleasant feelings are things like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. The painful feelings are things like anger, sadness, frustration, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, things of this nature. It's very painful to experience those feelings. And then there's neither painful nor pleasant feelings. This is like uncomfortableness, like shyness, displeasure that's in the mind. So out of these 3 feelings, whenever you're experiencing these conditioned feelings, your mind is shaken up and you're unable to make wise decisions that's going to produce wholesome results for you. The cause of these feelings is in the second noble truth. These discontent feelings are caused by craving, desire, attachment. The mind wants and expects things to be permanent while you live in an impermanent world. So I'll give you some examples on this. So if you wake up in the morning and you see it's sunny outside and you get really excited and happy about this, well, when it rains or some other weather event, you'll be sad or frustrated. Only thing that's happened there is change. That's all that's happened, is it went from sun to rain, because the sun is not permanent. And if you base your feelings on the sun, that means your happiness is not permanent. This is why you haven't been able to get to permanent happiness, because you're basing your feelings on some impermanent object. For example, if you get happy when your bank account balance is up here, that means when it goes down here, you'll be sad or frustrated. Again, the only thing that's happened is change, that it just went from this balance to this balance. But the mind's craving permanence, wanting things to be permanent, when in reality you live in an impermanent world where everything around you is constantly changing. So if you were, say, in a relationship, and when you guys first got together, you might have got really happy and excited about this. But then when you guys broke up and you were no longer friends, or you were no longer boyfriend or girlfriend or husband or wife, you might have been very sad or angry or frustrated, or you might have been lonely or bored or missing this person. What's causing that is the mind holding on and craving permanence, wanting this person to be in your life permanently, when in reality they are impermanent. People are going to come and go in and out of your life, but the mind craves permanence. Think about if you had a brand new car and you got that brand new car and you were so happy and excited with this car. If you parked it at a store and you went inside and came out and you saw a scratch on your car, you might get angry or sad or frustrated. It's not the scratch that's causing that. And it's not the person who scratched your car that's causing those painful feelings. What's causing it is the mind is craving permanence, wanting and expecting this car to be permanently beautiful, when in reality it is not permanent. The paint's going to fade, the tires are going to need to be changed, the upholstery is going to get ripped and torn. This car is impermanent. But as long as you're basing your inner feelings on this car, then that means when it starts changing, your mind's not going to like it. And what happens is when you're experiencing those painful feelings, the mind typically attributes it to something external. You'll think that it's your mom and dad that are making you angry, or your brothers and sisters, or your boss, or your coworkers. And the mind will tend to function unskillfully. What it will tend to do with that lack of wisdom is it will tend to push people away out of your life. This is called aversion, where you might have pushed away a person or a situation out of your life, thinking that that was going to solve your anger and frustration. But you can see that that didn't solve it, because you still get angry, you still get frustrated. If this person was the true cause of your discontent feelings, when you push them out of your life, you'd be peaceful and joyful from that point forward. Or the second thing you'll do when you don't understand the second noble truth, that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, is you'll tend to be bitter and harsh and hostile towards people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. And it just damages your relationships. It's kind of like an animal growling and roaring at another animal, trying to fear it into doing things your way. Or the third thing you'll do when you don't understand the second noble truth and you haven't independently verified it, is you will put your expectations on people, attempting to control them or force them to do things your way. And people might actually be doing this to you too, where they're pushing you away. They're being bitter, harsh, and hostile to you, and they're putting expectations on you and trying to control you. But there is a better way of life here that the Buddha shared with you, that you don't need to do that. You can build harmonious relationships in your day-to-day life. But you need to first independently verify this second noble truth. Again, you can't believe that this is actually true. So what I'd like to do is invite you to take a look at your own life with this new wisdom that I'm sharing with you here. Is take a look at a recent situation where you've been angry or frustrated or irritated or annoyed or some other discontent feeling. It could have been this morning or yesterday or last week. Take a look at that situation with fresh eyes, because at the time you might have been trying to blame somebody else, because that's what the mind typically does. What was it that you were longing and yearning for? What was it that you were craving and wanting and expecting? And if you would have gotten it, you would have been happy. But because the mind didn't get it, you were angry or sad or frustrated or some other discontent feeling. And if you can't see this, let me know, because I will help you. I've had plenty of students over the years have difficulties with seeing this, but you need to be able to have a breakthrough to being able to see what is causing your painful feelings. Because as long as you think that it's other people that are causing these feelings, you'll never actually be able to solve it and get to the point where your mind's completely peaceful and joyful. I'll give you a couple of examples that I've heard over the years. I had one student call me one time and they said, David, I really need to talk to you. And I said, okay, what's going on? And they said, I know you teach that it's my own mind that's causing these feelings, but I'm sure it's my wife that causes these feelings. I need your help. And I was like, okay, well, what's going on? And they were like, well, I went to work the other day and my house looked beautiful. And when I came home, she had a craft project all over the house, and the house didn't look the way it looked when I went to work, and I got angry and frustrated when I came home. Didn't she cause me to be angry? I wasn't even there. I just walked in the house. She's the one who messed up the house. And I said, no, this was your mind. Your mind's craving permanence. You wanted your house to look exactly the same when you came home as when you went to work. Your mind was craving permanence, and your house is not going to look that way permanently. It's impossible, right? So you need to be able to see this in your own life. I can give you example after example after example. You can look at your life and you can see all the times where you've been struggling the most, that there was some type of change going on. You were changing living locations, you were changing jobs or occupations, your relationships were changing. Whenever you were experiencing change, your mind was struggling and having difficulties there because it was craving permanence. So one of the ways to say this is, yes, the mind craves permanence, but another way to say it is that the mind does not like impermanence. It doesn't like change. When things are changing, it just doesn't like it. So you can see this in a relationship, like maybe you've had someone close to you that has died, like grandma and grandpa, or mom or dad, or brothers and sisters, or other people. While they were alive, you were getting what you wanted. You were happy. But then when they died, the mind didn't like that impermanence. It didn't like that change. You were craving permanence. Or think back to when we were children, as little kids. We might have went to our parents and said, Mommy and Daddy, can I have chocolate and ice cream? And they said, sure, you can have chocolate and ice cream. Here you go. And we were like, thank you, Mommy and Daddy. You're the best Mommy and Daddy ever. And then we came around the second day and we said, Mommy and Daddy, can I have chocolate and ice cream? And they said, sure, here you go. Here's your chocolate and ice cream. And we're like, thank you, Mommy and Daddy. You're the best Mommy and Daddy ever. Right? And then the third day came around and we said, can we have chocolate and ice cream? And they said, no. We said, you're the worst Mommy and Daddy ever, right? We were so angry and frustrated because our mind didn't get what we wanted, what we were craving, what we were longing, yearning for. But we firmly believed that it was our mom and dad who were making us angry, when in reality it was our own mind, because our mind was craving permanence, when in reality chocolate and ice cream is not permanent. Right? So you need to be able to see this for yourself, that it's your own mind that's causing these painful feelings, because right now you might actually think that it's love that's causing these feelings, that when you're grieving or sorrowful when someone dies, you might think that that's your love. Or when you have a relationship, when you break up, you might think that it's your love that's causing that. But it's actually your mind holding on and craving permanence. So that's why that first meditation, a breathing mindfulness meditation, when you were focused on the breath and the mind moved off the breath, you're training it to let go, because that's what the unenlightened mind doesn't know how to do. It doesn't know how to let go. So the Buddha teaches you breathing mindfulness meditation. He teaches you to practice generosity, where you're giving and sharing with the people around you. This trains your mind to let go. And there's other things as well that he teaches you, because the solution to all of this is in the third noble truth. He's explaining to you that, hey, there's a way to get out of this discontentedness. There's an escape, which is to eliminate your discontent feelings. By eliminating your discontent feelings, you can accomplish that through the elimination of craving, desire, attachment. When you eliminate that longing, yearning, that craving for permanence, you can actually eliminate your discontent feelings. And you can verify this, that it's true. Because think back to that boyfriend or girlfriend that you broke up with. When you guys first broke up, you might have been angry. You might have been lonely or bored. But at some point, you said, you know what? If he wants to be with someone else, so be it. And you let go. And that's where your peace and your joy came back, right? Maybe you were missing this person. Maybe you were upset that this person was gone. But then you were like, you know what? If she wants to move to another part of the world, so be it. and your mind let go. And when you let go, that's where your peace and your joy came back. But the unenlightened mind doesn't know how to do that. That's why it holds on. You can talk to some people that they're 5-10 years out of a relationship and they're still frustrated. They're still missing this person because their mind's holding on. So oftentimes people think it's the love that's causing those painful feelings, and that's why the mind doesn't want to let go. That's why when someone dies in your life, you might feel like you have to grieve. And if you eliminate that grief, you're eliminating the love, where that's not actually true. You're actually just eliminating your craving for them to be permanent, understanding that they are impermanent. So you can maintain your love, you can maintain your appreciation and your what you have in your mind for this person while eliminating the discontent feelings. And the way that you do that is in the fourth noble truth, which I understand I don't have here, but it's something that I teach through all of our programs. This is just a refresher because this is a 3-day course and students learned this previously on Monday. What the fourth noble truth explains is that the way to eliminating your discontent feelings is the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is the complete perfect plan that's going to guide you in how to completely transform your mind. This is a core central teaching of the Buddha that everything else integrates into. And when you learn this Eightfold Path, you can gradually implement it in your life and dial this in closer and closer, and you'll be able to see improvement to the condition of your mind in your life. So to understand this masquerading as love, these cravings, desires, attachments as masquerading as love, let me kind of explain to you what you've been experiencing in your day-to-day life because you haven't yet understood what is love. You tend to meet somebody and you spend some time with them, you're getting to know them. Maybe when you first met them, you were attracted to them physically. Maybe you thought they were attractive or beautiful. Maybe you were attracted to their finances and their money. Right? Maybe you're attracted to them intellectually, or maybe you were attracted to their social status. And now you were interested in this person and you start spending time with this person. And when you first meet them and you're first starting to spend time with them, you have very minimal expectations. In fact, all you're really interested in is getting to know this person. And you start spending time with this person. And it feels so pleasurable. It feels so great because you've got this new person in your life. Somebody who's inviting you to dinner. They're inviting you to the movies. They're calling you and checking in on you. They're sending you text messages. You might be going to the park, walking through the park, having great conversations. You might be having intimate contact where you're having sexual activity and you're getting all these pleasurable feelings. And you might be doing this for a few weeks or a few months. And then eventually you get to the point where you might say to them, I've fallen in love with you. And they say, I love you too. Oh my gosh, we're in love. And now everybody's in love. And you spend time with each other and you start spending more and more and more and more time with each other. But then your expectations grow and you start wanting more and more things from this person. And they can't meet your expectations. And when they don't do things your way, you get angry or frustrated. And then they start having expectations for you and wanting you to be a certain way. And you can't meet their expectations. And they start getting angry and frustrated at you. And then at some point, you guys break up. And you say, I don't love you anymore. I've fallen out of love with you. And they say, I don't love you anymore either. And now you're angry and frustrated at each other. And you go your separate ways and being angry and bitter and harsh and hostile. And maybe at some point you start being bored or lonely or start missing this person. Now you might think that this is love. There might have been love there. There might have been love in that relationship. But that's not the love that I'm just describing there. There's no such thing as conditional love. But we might call this conditional love. That as long as you meet my conditions, as long as you do what I want you to do, I will say I love you and I will act like I love you and I will function like I love you. But when you stop doing things my way and you don't meet my expectations anymore, I don't love you anymore. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to be bitter and harsh and hostile to you. So this is craving, desire, attachment, wants and expectations, wanting this person to do things a certain way. And the mind craves this permanence, wanting these people to be this way. And as long as they do things your way, that's where the mind will say, I love you, and I will treat you like I love you. But when you stop doing things my way, I don't love you anymore, and I'm going to start treating you bitter and harsh and hostile. I'm going to be angry at you. This isn't actually love. Again, there's no such thing as conditional love, though we might call it conditional love. If you do things my way, then I will say I love you. This is actually going to sabotage your ability to have successful relationships, because in this scenario, you can only love people who do things your way. And there's only one person in the world that's actually going to ever do things your way 100% of the time. And do you know who this person is? Yourself, right? You're the only one that's ever going to do things your way. Because of impermanence, people are going to do things differently, and that's okay. But your mind craves for everybody to do things your way, because one of the things that the mind has in the unenlightened state has ego. What ego is where there's arrogance and pride. There's this measuring and comparing, thinking of yourself as being above people or below people. And now the mind thinks everyone should do it my way, because my way is the right way and everything else is the wrong way. So as long as you can only love people who do things your way, you can only love yourself. And you might actually have trouble doing that sometimes, right? Because you put expectations on yourself, and you kind of maybe are bitter and harsh and hostile to yourself. So what you would like to be able to do is understand that this cravings, desires, wants, expectations, this attachment is masquerading as love, and that's not actually love. What you would like to be able to do is get to unconditional love, where you can love people unconditionally. And this is true love, where you can separate the choices and decisions that people make from the person themselves. When you love somebody, it means you have a genuine interest in seeing them be well, understanding that they are responsible for their own wellness. And you don't put expectations on people to try to control people and pressure them to do things your way. So you've got to resist that urge that's in the unenlightened mind, where you have craving to try to get mom and dad to do things your way, or you have a craving to get brothers and sisters to do things your way, or friends or life partners or children. You might be trying to put your expectations on people and try to convince them to do things your way. But your way isn't necessarily the right way for everybody. But that's what the unenlightened mind thinks. So you need to understand that there's more than one right way to do things in the world. And you've had certain experiences in the world and you do things a certain way. But then there's other people who have had other experiences that are different than you, and they're going to do things a different way. So if you can separate the choices and decisions that people make, understanding that you are going to disagree with people's choices and decisions sometimes, but you can still love the person, meaning you have a genuine interest in seeing them be well. You can get to unconditional love, where you just love this person as they are, without wanting or expecting them or trying to control them to do things your way. You know, when I didn't understand this, I used to go to my wife sometimes and I would say, "Hey, would you like to go to the movies?" And she would say, "No, I want to stay home." I'd be like, come on, you party pooper. Like, let's go to the movies. Come on, there's this new movie out. It's the biggest movie in the last 5 years. Let's go to the movies. She's like, "No, I'm staying home. I would like to just rest." And I was like, don't you love me? Come on, you got to come to the movies. And then finally she's like, "All right, I'll come to the movies." Right. And then she comes to the movies and she's grumpy and irritable because she really would rather be at home. And now I'm grumpy and irritable because I want her to be having a good time. And now we go to the movies and we're both grumpy and irritable, right? So this is what we tend to do when we don't understand true love. Where now I'll go to her and I'll say, "Hey, your son and I would like to take you on a date. We would like to take you to the movies. Would you like to go?" And she's like, "No, I would like to stay home. I've got some things to work on here." And I'll say, "Okay, well, that's fine. Have a good day. We'll see you when we get back." No big deal, right? Not trying to control her, not trying to force her, right? You just understand that she's making decisions in her life and you make decisions in your life. Just because she's not going to the movies doesn't mean she doesn't love me. It just means that she's choosing to stay home, right? So what we'll do when we have craving, when we have longing, yearning, and we get those pleasant feelings, when we get what we want, we'll try to pressure this person into doing things our way. And this is just hindering your ability to have successful and harmonious relationships, because the mind's trying to get things my way. I want it my way. When you see mom and dad struggling, or you see brothers and sisters struggling, you might feel like you need to jump in there and make a bunch of decisions for them so they don't struggle anymore. But those painful feelings that you're experiencing when you see mom and dad struggling, or your brothers and sisters struggling, that's because you're craving permanence. You're wanting their life to be a certain way. And now when you don't see it happening that way, you're struggling with your own painful feelings, but it's coming from your own mind. Now, I'm sure you've been in knockdown, drag out arguments where you've been fighting and arguing with people, trying to convince them that you're right and they're wrong. And sure, they might have been doing something unwise, but it was your cravings, desires, attachments that's producing those discontent feelings. It's the craving for permanence. But you can get to this peace and joy and this harmonious relationships when you're not trying to control other people and put expectations on other people. So if you can peer through this and see the truth, then more and more you can start practicing true love. Because it's one thing to understand it intellectually, but it's a whole other thing to actually practice it. Because there's people in our life that we think love us, and we know that these are people that are supposed to love us, like our parents, but oftentimes what they're practicing is not true love. They might have true love in there, but they have these cravings, desires, attachments that are polluting their true love, making it very difficult for you to understand what is true love. So if you have parents that put expectations on you and try to control you and pressure you to do things their way, they're not understanding that they're not practicing true love. They're trying to get pleasant feelings, and they think that if they get you to do things their way, that they're going to get those conditioned pleasant feelings, and they don't realize that they need to let you make your own decisions. So in these situations, when you're around people who are supposed to have love for you and you see them putting expectations on you, you might think that that's what you need to do. When you're in a life partnership or you're with your friends, you might think that that's how you show love, is by putting expectations on people. But what you can do is you can actually get your cravings, desires, attachments out of the way. And now you can actually have your true love shine through more and more. Understanding that mom and dad might not be practicing true love right now. I'm sure they have it in there, but they're just polluted it with these cravings, desires, attachments. So when you get those cravings, desires, attachments out of the way, your true love can shine through more and more in your relationships. And you're going to need to practice this, because it's one thing to understand it intellectually, but it's a whole nother thing to practice in your day-to-day life, where you're not trying to control people and you're not being bitter and harsh and hostile to them, because those painful feelings that you're experiencing is coming from your own mind. It's very unwise to be bitter, harsh, and hostile with people. So you need to separate the choices and decisions that people make from the person themselves, because you're never going to agree with anybody 100% of the time. Probably even yourself. You don't even agree with yourself 100% of the time. So I'm going to stop here and see if you guys have any questions on true love and this unconditional love, where you can love people as they are. Remember, we have microphones here in the middle, and we also have them up here. You guys are welcome to get a microphone. And then for those of you guys online, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. So does anybody here online have questions? No questions? Okay. Let me see what we have here online. Yeah, you have a question? Yes, sir. There's microphones right there.
Thank you so much. I'm Martin from China. We understand all things in the world are impermanent. Yes. But is that true? We treat a relationship or brings the world, or let it be to be, because you actually how to say, for example, if we want to nurturing the marital connections with spouses or with parents or with kids, because beyond the death or birth, is there anything we can do, or just treat it as let it be to be? Yeah, this is the first.
Is your question, is there anything you can do to help another person? Is that what you're saying? I didn't understand you 100%.
Help, not only help other person, help myself, or my family also.
Okay. The best thing you can do for yourself and your family is to train your own mind, because your mind, with these pollutions that the Buddha discovered, you'll function in the world in unwise ways, thinking that what you're doing is so wise because the mind's ego is in there. But the more you train your mind, you're becoming a better and better person. And this is the best thing you can do for yourself and all those people around you, because there's a certain amount of harm that you're putting out through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. And now when you clean that up, this is going to help you to become more and more peaceful, and it's going to also help your family around you as well. So the best thing you can do is actually focus on training your own mind, where oftentimes what people do is they try to go out into the world and fix everybody else. And this is never going to work, that you need to actually work on your own mind. That's what's going to help you and help everybody around you.
Yes, thank you. Exactly. Yes, that's why I come for this course, for training course, and also I want to change my mindset or my family. But in case I'm in the position of who, for your example, your wife, who is pushing, how we can do that?
To not push?
I mean,
are you asking me how to not push?
Sorry. You just share one example. That's for going to the movie. Mm-hmm. Yes. In case I were your wife.
Okay.
How we?
If you were my wife.
Yeah.
How would I do what?
In that case, yes.
How would I do what?
How we can do? Yeah. Because to bring the husband to his training course, or what we can do.
Oh, so your mind's still trying to change the other person. You've got to change your own mind.
But if we don't change, we will suffer, because I think they understand.
Mm-hmm. Is your wife here, by the way?
No.
Oh, okay.
So we can free talk.
So, it's not about bringing your partner to learn. If they'd like to learn, that's great. If you have a couple that two people are learning, hey, you're playing from the same sheet of music, it's going to really help you a lot, right? But if they're not learning, you can still get to peace and you can still get to joy. And as you're becoming a better and better person, they're going to absorb some of that through the way you interact. Right? So say you have a partner who's not learning these teachings, and you are learning these teachings. And let's just say you go on a business trip and they say, hey, honey, you've been gone for a whole week. Do you miss me? And you're probably going to say, no, I don't miss you. And they're going to say, well, don't you love me? Why don't you miss me? Oh, well, because I'm not attached to you. I understand you are impermanent, that sometimes we're going to be together and I can enjoy that time, but I can also enjoy time when I'm away from you too. And now I can be content and peaceful in both of these situations. And maybe your partner is only happy when you're at home. That's the attachment. That's the craving. I can only be happy when he's at home. But then when you leave, your partner isn't content. They're not peaceful. They're angry or frustrated. So you can actually help your partner a little bit like this, but you can't do that if you don't have the wisdom. That's why it all starts with you. So the way that I improved my relationship, because me and my wife used to argue quite a bit for 11 years. Now we've been together 19 years and we haven't had an argument in probably 6 years or so, 7 years. We just enjoy each other and we're completely peaceful and harmonious with each other. But for the first 11 years, it was difficult. It was challenging, right? But slowly but surely, I helped her to be able to see these teachings and understand these teachings. And she's Thai, so she grew up here, but she just didn't learn what she needed to learn. So by me helping her, now we're at this place where, hey, our relationship's wonderful. There's never any arguing in our house. Even we have a young son. There's never hostility, bitterness, harshness, none of that stuff, because everything's harmonious. Where before we used to fight like two cats and dogs, right? We're fighting to death to prove who's right and who's wrong. Where now we understand impermanence, and that of course she has a different opinion than me. Of course I have a different view than her. And now we just sit down and talk about it, and we're able to come to some conclusion by the end of our conversation. Mm-hmm. Yep. I see more of you guys have questions. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
There's some mics over here, ma'am.
Thank you. Actually, I do have a question about the work.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, when I'm working, actually I have kind of high standard to myself, and we normally do a project, so we are teamwork. So everyone should pay their effort to make this project successful. But when I work with my coworkers, they are marked as like a high level or a professional member. But when I worked with him, I found that he is not that professional, and the output is not that satisfied to me. So because I love my work, I love this project, the process to realizing this task. So actually, I want him or her like making a professional output so that the project will be successful and the customer will also be satisfied. So in that case, because I am unsatisfied with my team, my coworkers' output, then I will like be a little bit angry, and I will work overnight to modify his or her work. But that work should be done by him or her, not me. So so I'm anxious, or I'm tired, or sometimes I'm exhausted to fix this scenario. Because, for example, a simple example, we are doing a research meeting, and his task just needed to write the meeting minutes. But when I see the meeting minutes, it's not satisfying to me. For example, it is not organized. It is very, not very clear. So I needed to modify his work. Then that makes me very angry. But I believe he is a very nice, kind person. But I do angry with his work. So I don't know how to fix out that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you're describing here is impermanence. That you do work one way and he does work a different way, right? And this is just impermanence, and you have a craving for it to be done your way, and that's why you're angry or frustrated. So you're going to need to get to a point where you understand he does his work one way, and that's his work product, and that's what he's choosing to deliver, and you do work your way. And now you are able to submit the work that you do, and he submits the work that he does, and then you guys experience the results from there. But let me just share something with you, because as you were talking, this is a very common thing that you said, I love my work. Okay. This is one of the problems of why craving, desire, attachment is masquerading as love, and people don't understand true love. And not only you, but many people think this way, is that people will say things like, I love chocolate, or I love my work, or I love this car, right? When you understand what true love is, you start to understand that you can't actually love these things. It's not possible. What actually is happening is you have craving, desire, attachment in your job. You're craving for it to be done a certain way. You're using the word love because the mind doesn't understand what true love is, but you actually can't love an inanimate object. You can't love work or love chocolate or love a car, because what love is having a genuine interest in seeing a being be well. So the challenge with this is the reason why craving, desire, attachment is masquerading as love is because in the unenlightened state, we tend to use language in a way that is not true. And the other thing that happens is if you listen to love songs, they're not actually talking about love in love songs. So if you hear a love song where it's like, oh, I can't live without you. Don't leave me, please. I'm down on my knees begging you. My heart is so broken. If you leave me, I will fall apart. This is actually not love. That's craving, desire, attachment. It's, I can only be happy if you're with me. That's it, right? That's craving, desire, attachment, that if I get what I want, I'm happy. And if I don't get what I want, I feel miserable. And that's why people think that love actually hurts, because our mind in the unenlightened state is conditioned to think about love in a certain way. So it's important to make sure you know that You actually don't love your work. It's not possible. But what you have is you have craving, desire, attachment, where you want your work to be a certain way and you're holding on to it. And you get a lot of pleasant feelings when it's being done the way you want it to be done. And that's what's actually causing those painful feelings. It's not because you love your work. It's because you have craving in your work, wanting it to be done a certain way. And you're going to need to get comfortable with this person submitting this particular work product and you submitting your work product. And now you get to experience the results that you experience and they experience the results that they experience.
Hello, but actually we are a teamwork. So if he submits a not professional product, that I will feel shame on that.
Right, because you have a craving. That's the shame, right? That's the discontent feeling. There are things you can do where you can help people, right? You could go to him because it's never black and white, right? The Buddha's not giving you a decision tree that if this happens, do this. And if this happens, do that, because that would be a permanent answer for every situation. So the first thing that I share with you is you need to eliminate your craving for this person to do work the same way as you. That's what's going to get you to peace and joy. Getting him to do work your way isn't going to get to your peace and joy, because the very next coworker that you have that doesn't do things your way, you're going to be frustrated and angry again. You can't teach 8 billion people in the world to do things your way, but that's what the mind wants to do. But you can contribute to somebody's professional development, where as a coworker, you're not his manager, it sounds like, you're his coworker. You could go to him, and I don't know this person's name, but let's just say his name's Bob, okay? Let's say, hey, Bob, I'm curious, would you be interested in some feedback on your work? Is that something that you would be interested in hearing from me? And they're either going to say yes or no, because you're never interested in giving unsolicited guidance, unsolicited feedback. But if he says no and he's not interested in your feedback, you're going to need to be comfortable with that. And you're going to need to walk away and just understand that, hey, he's going to do things that way and that's his choice. But if he says, yes, I would be interested in your feedback, now you can politely, kindly, and friendly show him some things that he could improve. And he may receive this well, but he may not, because he's probably got ego in his mind. And now when you come at him, if you're not using what we call right intention, right speech, and right action, now when you're talking to him, his ego can come up and it can cause conflict between the two of you. So you can help him and support him in his professional development, but that's not going to solve your anger and frustration. If he did the meeting minutes your way, well, it's only a matter of time before he does something else that's not your way, right? So you're going to need to get rid of your craving. That's why I talked about that first. But there are ways to help people, but that's not going to solve your frustration and your shame and all these other things. It's your craving for permanence and to have things done your way that is causing that. So there's a core central teaching here. It's called the Eightfold Path. You need to learn that in its entirety and implement it in your day-to-day life. This first book is the one that I suggest people start with. We give all this stuff away for free. You can actually get it from our website by downloading it. You can take it and go print it yourself. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for the printing costs, and then we'll use those money to buy some more books. Or you can order it on Amazon if your country has access to Amazon. But this is the best place for everybody to start. And on Sundays and Wednesdays, I do a program where I gradually walk students through chapter by chapter by chapter, each book or each chapter in the book over a 7-month period. So this is like how to establish a foundation. We also have courses and retreats. All of this is available at no cost, where you can gradually learn the entire path to enlightenment. This is just one topic, and you guys are coming into a course that I've been teaching for the last 2 days, where I've already taught those core central teachings. So I think we have more questions. Yeah, I see a lot of hands. I don't know who's first and who's second. You guys figure it out.
Hello, teacher. Microphone here. And thank you for the medicine. I have is recover, because for the daily life full of occupied. I just want to ask you how to training inside peace, always however outside stuff. I want to my soul can breathe every day, however outside stuff.
Okay.
I want to
So-
learning.
So it's important to understand that the Buddha didn't teach that there is a soul, and he didn't teach that there isn't a soul either. He just left this as an undeclared teaching. So whenever you hear people talking about a soul related to the teachings of the Buddha, they haven't really penetrated into them deep enough to be able to see that he actually didn't teach this topic. So sometimes there's tons of misunderstandings in the world about the teachings of the Buddha. Instead, what he's doing is he's teaching you to focus on your mind, because your mind is like the CPU of a computer. If the CPU of the computer is working well, then the whole computer works well. But if it doesn't work well, then the keyboard, the mouse, the monitor, none of it works well. So he's teaching you to train your mind, because everything goes through your mind. It's the central processing unit of this being who you are. So the way that you do this is, I would recommend this book, like I just mentioned, because it starts with helping you to develop a foundation. And chapter 4 and 5 is the core central teaching of the Buddha, where you can learn the Eightfold Path. And there's videos on YouTube, there's our podcast, you can get personal guidance with me, you can take classes and courses, because we live stream everything, and you can gradually learn this path. I don't have time to explain it all today. It takes me about 2.5 hours to teach the core central teaching, and I did that on Monday in this course, but it's been recorded many times so you could watch it. Yeah, all the classes are online. When I teach here, I live stream everything. That's what all these cameras and everything are for. And even sometimes when I travel to other places and I teach, we sometimes live stream that as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're welcome.
Good morning, Mr.
Hello.
Okay, thank you.
Hello.
Thank you so much for the guiding.
Mhm.
So really appreciate that. So my question is, I totally agree with on the word. The true love is we love them as they are, but sometimes we just can't help having expectations for our partner. Just when he makes a mistake, we just keep thinking about what he did. And so it's so difficult to let it go in a short time, very short time. So my question is, what should I do in this situation at that moment? Is there any useful way to get away from that? Like how to train your mind at that moment?
Yeah,
Yes.
in the moment when you're noticing your anger and frustration arising, it's because of your expectations, because you're wanting this person to do things a certain way. And what the Buddha teaches you to do is cut that off and let it go. Don't allow the mind to keep longing and yearning. So like you said, it's difficult for you to not have expectations for people because you haven't trained your mind. You haven't practiced the Eightfold Path. But if you practice the entire Eightfold Path, you'll be able to then train your mind to not do that. And one of the things you have is you have what's called mindfulness, or awareness of mind, and you watch over your mind. Again, using the computer analogy, I used to do computers in the past. It's like a virus scanner. You know, a virus scanner sits in the background of your computer, watches over your hard drive, and if there's any corrupt files or virus that comes on your hard drive, it isolates it, cleans it up, and gets it off your hard drive. Well, your mindfulness is the same way. Your mindfulness is your awareness of mind that's just sitting there looking over your mind all throughout your day. And if you notice any longing or yearning, or you're noticing you're putting expectations on people, you notice your anger starting to arise, you can cut that off and let it go. So that meditation that we did just for a short time at the beginning and the end, where we're cutting off and letting go, you can actually do that as an entire session for 30 minutes, where you're cutting off and letting go, cutting off and letting go, cutting off and letting go. You're building this mechanism inside your mind to be able to do that. And then you can notice that prior to your mind experiencing a feeling, there's going to be bodily sensations like tingling in the body, tightening in the chest, tightening in the throat, heat in the face, pressure in the skull. This is the early warning system alerting you you're about to get angry, you're about to get frustrated. And that's coming from your craving for permanence. And now when you notice that arising, you cut it off and let it go. You're not suppressing it or repressing it. You're just choosing to not allow the mind to form the feeling. So the mind's like, with those bodily sensations, it's like, I'm about to get a feeling here. I'm about to get a painful feeling. I'm about to get angry. And you're like, nope, I'm not going to let you do that. And you cut it off. And if you do this enough, eventually you'll get to the point where it doesn't ever arise. For an enlightened being, it's physically impossible to become angry, even if you try to make yourself angry.
Really appreciate that.
Mhm.
One a lot. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
You're welcome. If you guys could check your mics, it sounds like there's something on. We're getting a little feedback.
I have a question. I have a very simple question. How to love somebody deeply without losing ourselves? Because you just said we avoid the control, avoid the
Sure. Your mic's not on. The people online can't hear you. It's impermanent. The microphone's impermanent.
My question is very simple. How to love somebody deeply without losing ourselves?
Sure.
Because like you just mentioned, we should avoid the control, just lower down the expectation, but it will become losing myself. I'm not who I am anymore.
Okay.
And I was taught by a way, if you don't love yourself, how the hell you love someone else? So the first class is love myself.
Yeah.
But in this class, you talk about the true love without attachment. I'm asking about a balance, how to balance and without losing myself. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a couple of things here to be able to understand. First is you need to practice the middle way with everything in your life. You know, if you're doing something too strong, too fierce, too hard, you're not going to experience peace and joy there. But also if you're on the other side where you could care less and you're indifferent, dull and lethargic, you're not going to experience peace and joy there. So everything that you need to do is based in what the Buddha called the middle way, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is to understand that your love is a mental state. Oftentimes people think it's the actions that determine our love. So for example, when I first met my wife, she was unemployed and I was a business owner at the time. I used to come home from work and she'd have like 5 or 6 entrees on the table. There wasn't even space for a plate. She had so much food everywhere, right? And she would do laundry. She was cooking and cleaning and doing so many different things, right? Well, she doesn't do that stuff anymore, right? She's got a 13-year-old son. She's got her own business now. We live here in Chiang Mai. She travels around and does different things. She hasn't cooked me a meal in years, right? If I thought that the cooking of the food was her love, then when she stopped cooking me the food, I would think she doesn't love me anymore. And then sometimes people think that the sex is the love. We even call it making love, right? Well, if you stopped having sex, or if your sex isn't as pleasurable as it once was, you'll think that this person doesn't love you anymore. So you need to make sure you don't assign these day-to-day things that you do for each other and with each other as being your love, that's not the actual love. Because sometimes you will run yourself to the point of exhaustion trying to do all these things for that person to prove to them that you love them, where your love is actually inside your mind. It's not the actions itself. The actions are motivated from what's going on in your mind. And then the third thing is this is a little bit deeper teaching, but it's important to understand that there is no self. Your mind's going to hold on to this body, this self-image, and hold on to this mind, your self-identity, thinking that this is who you are as a person. The mind's going to constantly try to grab onto these different things and thinking that this is who you are. One of the teachings that the Buddha teaches is called the universal truth of non-self, where you learn that there is no self. So the mind trying to hold on to all these things, when you start experiencing change, you'll feel like you've lost yourself, where in reality, there really is no self. The only thing that's happened is things have been changing. And when you're holding on to this and holding on to this and holding on to this and holding on to this, you'll think that this is who you are. And now when all that changes, you'll feel like you've lost yourself. So if you have certain hobbies or certain activities that you do, and now if you think that that's who you are, and now you start spending time with this person and you don't do those activities anymore, you'll feel like you've lost yourself. Where in reality, those activities aren't you. It's not who you are. So this is a little bit deeper teaching, but this is just a little bit of information for you. Really, it's the Eightfold Path that you guys really need to start with to be able to deeply understand these teachings and really be able to put in practice what it is that I'm sharing here.
Are those in your book?
What's that?
Are those you talking about in your book?
Yeah, if you get this first book, this is the best place to start. It's the volume 1 of a 13-book series. It's based on the original words of the Buddha. Like I said, you can get it for free. by downloading it. You can take it and go print it yourself. If you like printed versions, we have them here. You just need to reimburse us so that we can then buy some more for other people. And then you can get it on Amazon too. That's the best place to start. And I walk you guys through. I've had some students say they read it 8 to 12 different times and they learn something new every single time when they read it. So and then I walk you guys through it through our live classes on Sunday and Wednesday. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so may I have a question that, as you said, permanent, nothing could be permanent, right? But last year when my grandma's passed away, and I comfort myself with that, nothing could be permanent. But I still feel very uncomfortable and I still be very sad. And that time my mother talked with me, no, her love is always existing. And you can feel that like she is she is always alive. But that's something conflict, right? so nothing could be permanent, but her love is always existing. So how can you understand like that? Or how can you understand that death? So this is a big topic maybe.
Okay, yes. Sure. So oftentimes people think the Buddha taught nothing is permanent, which isn't actually true. He taught that all conditioned objects are impermanent. And he taught that there's something called unconditioned objects. Okay. So conditioned objects are anything that you can see, hear, smell, taste, that touches the body, or any thoughts or ideas that go through the mind. A conditioned object will arise, it will change, and it will fade away. It's a conditioned object. It is impermanent. But then there's unconditioned objects that don't arise, don't change, and don't fade away. Things like enlightenment are unconditioned. That's why it's a permanent mental state. And then unconditional love, it is permanent because you don't fall in love with people. There's nothing that they could do for you to fall out of love with people. Like, for example, I love every single one of you in here, and I love every other being in the world. You haven't earned my love. You haven't done anything to earn my love. I love you, meaning I have a genuine interest in seeing you be well. And no matter what you do, I will still maintain that. I will never fall out of love with you. So if you called me up, I don't suggest you do this, but if you murdered somebody today and you called me up from jail and you said, hey, David, I've got some really big problems. Can you come help me? I murdered someone. I'd say, sure, I'll be right there to see you. Where are you? Right? I love you. I disagree with the choices and decisions that you made. I wouldn't kill somebody, but that doesn't mean I have to hate you. I don't have to be angry at you or frustrated at you. It's just that, hey, you made these choices and now I can still love you, meaning have a genuine interest in seeing you be well. And that's something that the mind can be trained to be able to do. Because oftentimes in the unenlightened state, we like certain people and then we dislike certain people. And the mind will firmly believe that dislike is coming from the other person, where in reality it's coming from your own mind. The mind's craving for everybody to do things this way, right? And if they do it that way, you like them. And if they don't do it that way, you will dislike them. So the mind's having craving, desire, attachment, and thinking that this dislike is coming from the other person, where in reality it's coming from your own mind. So you can get to unconditional love, which is permanent. It's a permanent thing because it's unconditional. There's no condition that's producing it, so therefore it's permanent. Where if you have happiness because it's sunny outside, that's conditional based on the sun. And because the sun is not permanent, your happiness is not permanent. So you can get to the point where you're happy whether it's raining or sun or snow or sleet. You can be happy no matter what, right? And that's what the Buddha is guiding you to be able to do with all the different things in your life. But when your mind's not trained, you will have certain things you like, certain things you dislike. You're happy when you get these things. You're unhappy when you get these things. But when you get rid of all of that and you understand the world is impermanent, now you can be happy no matter what. Your boyfriend or girlfriend's with you, you're happy, you're joyful, but you're not joyful because they're with you. And then when they're away, you can also be happy then too. Right? But with the craving, desire, attachment, you can't experience that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, please go for it.
Oh, thank you. So a question from the back here.
Uh-huh.
Hi, David.
Hello.
So this is actually a follow-up question. I kind of understand what you just mentioned, that you cannot love stuff that's are not being, but if we are eliminating all these craving, desire for with attachment, then what's the so-called correct feelings or perceptions for this stuff. For example, I still care a lot about my work, about my gifts, about my my house, something. But I don't want to have extra desire regarding to this stuff. So what's that feeling that you want to describe? And what's the positive feelings that I can still pay an effort to make it better, but I won't get distracted by all those negative feelings?
Sure. So it's best to not think of the feelings as positive and negative or good or bad, because that's not going to bring you to the understanding that you need in order to be able to get to enlightenment. Each one of these feelings, whether they're pleasure, pain, or neither pain nor pleasure, they're all conditioned feelings, which means at the end of the day, they're ultimately all unsatisfying, because conditional pleasant feelings are only conditional, meaning they're temporary. So what the mind does in the unenlightened state is it's like, if my mom and dad does this, if my brothers and sisters do this, if my boss does this, if the weather is this, if I have this much money in my bank account, if I have this type of house, this type of car, then I will be happy. So the more of those conditions that you have, your happiness is actually shrinking, because the mind is experiencing conditional happiness. What you would like to do is get to unconditional happiness. And this unconditional happiness, it's not a feeling, because a feeling arises, changes, and fades away. What unconditional happiness is a mental state where the mind's always cheerful, it's bright, it's uplifted, it's radiant, and there's no condition that is causing that. So therefore, it's a permanent mental state. So what you're looking to do is get rid of the causes and conditions that are producing conditioned feelings, so that you can then get to unconditioned mental states, which are permanent. And in order to be able to do that, you need to be able to see that conditioned pleasant feelings are just as much a part of the problem as the painful ones. Because, for example, if you get really excited and happy when you get a brand new job, well, 5 years later, when the company goes out of business or you get laid off or fired, you're going to be angry and sad and frustrated, because you allowed your mind to get the conditioned pleasant feelings. The painful ones are waiting for you right around the corner. And sometimes this is stretched so far away from each other, you don't see the connection and the correlation. And that's what the Buddha is helping you to be able to see. So you're not interested in getting temporary happiness, temporary pleasant feelings. You're interested in getting to unconditioned joy, unconditioned happiness, where there doesn't need to be any condition met for that to exist in the mind. So that way, no matter what's happening in your day-to-day life, you can have happiness in your mind at all times, from the morning you wake up, all day long, and as you're going to sleep as well. But you can't get to that as long as your mind keeps experiencing conditional pleasant feelings, conditional happiness.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure who's first. You guys can just start talking. There's so many hands.
Thank you. So what about me first?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm thinking in the romantic love, if I don't feel attached at all, so wouldn't that become indifference?
No, this
Because-
is... Oh, sorry. I thought you were done. My apologies.
Yeah, it's okay. Because I was always thinking that if I love someone means I'm willing to do something for him,
Mhm.
even though sometimes it's a kind of compromise.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I'm so confused now because I don't know what's the line between freedom and emotional distance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So oftentimes the unenlightened mind can see the two extremes really well, because it's black and white. They have difficulty seeing the middle. The mind can see holding on and craving and chasing and wanting things to be a certain way. And the mind thinks, well, if I'm not doing that, then I'm going to be all the way over here where I'm indifferent, or I could care less what's going on in my life. Those are the two extremes. And the Buddha is teaching you to come to the middle. It's important to see, there was this words in the last question, is that it's not your care or your concern that's causing the painful feelings. The care and concern doesn't actually cause painful feelings. So you can have love without attachment. What it means is you're not basing your feelings on what this person does or what's going on with this person. You're not basing your feelings on that, but you're still making wise decisions in your life about who to include in your life and the kinds of things that you would like to be doing in your life. You still make those wise decisions, but you're not basing your feelings and emotions on this. And you're also not on the other side where you could care less about what's going on. So in a relationship, there's going to be things where you guys enhance each other's life and you support each other's life, but you need to understand that you're not going to base your feelings on each other. So I'll just give you some examples from my life, right? So my wife, several years ago, she came to me and she said, "Hey, David, I'm thinking about going back to the U.S. To work. And I think I'm going to go to the U.S. because she does massage, right?" And I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "How long are you going to go for?" And she said, "Oh, about 2 months." She said, "I was just checking in with you to make sure you'd be okay being here to take care of our son." And I said, "Yeah, I'll be fine." She's like, "Yeah, you sure you don't need anything?" And I said, "No, I'll be fine." I said, "When are you planning to leave?" She said, "About 6 weeks from now, I'm planning to leave." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that'll work out fine." Right? So in that situation, she was checking in with me before she booked any tickets and before she did any of that kind of stuff so that we could come to make sure that we were both fine with this event that she was planning to do. So if she was craving and longing, yearning for it, she would just run out and go do it, right? And she just wanted it done her way. And if she was indifferent and she could care less about me and what our son was experiencing, she would, not care, right? But instead, she was in the middle where she was just checking in and making sure this would be okay. And if there was anything that I needed, she probably would have got a friend or family member or something like that to be able to help. So this is being aware, like she needed to go do this because she couldn't make enough money in Thailand. She needed to go do this for her life, but she was doing it from the middle way. So this is what it means to be able to love someone, meaning she had a genuine interest in seeing me be well. She had a genuine interest in seeing her son be well. And she was then making decisions to ensure that happened. But she wasn't basing her feelings and emotions on this. And also same with me, that I wasn't basing my feelings and emotions on this. When she left, we didn't miss her. Right? Of course, we love her. We care about her. We would like to see her be well, but we didn't miss her. We weren't bored. We weren't lonely. We weren't like, "Oh, when is mom coming back?" Right? We have fun when mom's there, but we have fun when mom's gone too. We're enjoying ourselves because when mom's here, we enjoy that. But when she's gone, we can enjoy ourselves then too. So that's what it means to be free and unattached, that our feelings and emotions aren't attached to mom. That if mom leaves, we can still be happy. So if she's here, we can still be happy with that too. So that's what it means to be unattached. It doesn't mean you're dismissive or you're indifferent or you could care less about this person. It means that you're in the middle and you're practicing this true love, which is love without attachment, where you have a genuine interest in seeing them be well, but you make wise decisions to make sure that your decisions aren't impacting others in a harmful way. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
This is why it takes time to practice it and really figure out how to do this on a regular, ongoing basis. So understanding it intellectually is one thing, but now it's going to take you multiple years to go out into the world and actually do it in all situations. Mm-hmm. More questions you guys have? I have a question here online too. Let me answer Steve's question. He's been patient. He submitted it a long time ago. He says, "I'm struggling to wrap my head around wanting what's best for someone, wanting someone to be peaceful, safe, well, etc., without it becoming a desire or something that the mind leads to discontentness. How do you have the want in a way that avoids attachment?" That's the thing that you need to eliminate. You need to eliminate that wanting, the longing and expecting. You come to the middle. Where you're longing, yearning, and wanting and expecting, that's the craving, desire, attachment. When you come to the other side, you're indifferent and you could care less about this other person. Neither of those two are going to produce harmonious relationships. You come to the middle where you have a goal, where you have objective, where you have an interest, and now you gradually work towards that with wise decision making. But you need to be careful with this word goal, because if you have a goal and you accomplish that goal and you're happy, but if you don't accomplish that goal, you're sad or frustrated, that's not a goal. That's a craving, desire, attachment masquerading as a goal, that your mind's longing, yearning. You need to be able to come to the middle where you have a true goal, where you work towards something as an objective or an interest. And if you're gradually working your way towards it and you haven't met your actual goal, you can look at it and you say, I'm 80% of the way there. Well, I could extend my timeline, give myself more time to accomplish this, Or, you know what, maybe I could add some resources to be able to help me to be able to accomplish this. Or, you know what, I'm fine with the 80%. I don't need to go any further. And now you can maintain your joy. You can maintain your happiness. But if you can only be happy if you get what you want, that's not a goal. That's a craving, desire, attachment masquerading as a goal. So you need to be able to scale this back. What I'm going to be teaching this afternoon, because after we take a break here in a little bit, I'm going to teach another topic. I'm going to teach this topic of, I'll show you guys, practicing in a world of the unknowing, relationships with non-practitioners. This is people who aren't practicing the teachings of the Buddha. I'm going to be teaching this before lunch. But then after our lunch break, I'm going to teach you how to eliminate attachment to the people who are closest to you. Because discussing this intellectually is one thing, but again, going out into the world and practicing it is different. When you have that craving for mom and dad or brothers and sisters to do things a certain way, that's going to be hard for you to practice true love. So I'm going to teach you various techniques to actually train your mind to actually eliminate attachment to people like your parents, your brothers and sisters, where you can maintain your love, but you're not actually attached to them, meaning your emotions are not based on what's going on with that person, because that person is impermanent. And if you base your emotions on them, that means your emotions are going to keep going up and down like this, where you can get to a point where your mind's always cheerful, always bright, and always uplifted. Okay, so maybe I'll just take another question or two. I apologize. There's so many people. We might not get to everybody's questions. So is there someone who hasn't asked questions yet? Yeah.
I just wanted to know, with regarding kids, when you give them advice, you're coming from a place of love, but they see it otherwise. And they feel like you're judging them or telling them what to do. And I feel like I'm coming from a place of love.
Yeah, you got to be careful, because the mind will tend to communicate with expectations. This is why the Eightfold Path is so important, because the Buddha teaches you right intention, right speech, right action. And you need to be able to see it as you're like a guide to your children, giving them advice, but you still need to make sure that they're open to your advice by being respectful, that they're their own independent person, even though they are technically our children. They're not mine. It's not my son. He doesn't belong to me. He is his own individual being, and I'm there as a guide to kind of help him to understand where I'm, what I'm sharing with him. But I only do that in respectful and polite and kind and friendly ways. So you're going to need more of the teachings so that you can practice right intention, right speech, right action. These are things that you haven't learned them probably. So therefore, when you're communicating, you might think that you're communicating in all the best ways. But if you haven't learned the natural laws that the Buddha teaches about what would be wise in terms of your speech, then you're probably speaking in ways that has things that are unwise. And now it's producing unwholesome results in your relationships. So in chapter 5 of that first book, I teach right speech, which helps you to be able to understand how to speak in ways that will be wise. And then you can communicate your love more clearly. And then they can see that very clearly. Because when I talk to my son, there's times where he doesn't agree with what I'm saying, or he doesn't like what I'm saying, but he knows dad loves him and that dad's helping him to be able to live this life. And he still might not do what it is that I recommend for him, but I don't get angry or upset or frustrated. I don't try to force him or control him. But you need to be able to learn how to train your own mind so that you can communicate well and that they can receive the love that you have. Because sometimes we think we're communicating in all the best ways, but if you haven't studied the natural law that the Buddha taught about how to speak in ways that are wise, there's probably things that are getting misunderstood from you communicating to this other person. Okay, so one more question. You have a question? Do you have a mic? Do you have a mic somewhere? Can you get a mic? There's people online that won't be able to hear you.
Hi, David. In China, dying well, a peaceful death is very important. When I was a kid, I think there's no regrets when I die. So in Buddha, what's dying well and what's peaceful death? What's the interpretation of dying well, a peaceful death?
Did you say, what is my interpretation of dying as a peaceful death? Yeah. So if you've done all the work that you need to do in this life, by the time you get to death, it'll be very peaceful. But if you're holding on to this life, craving for it to be permanent, when you get close to death and you're realizing, oh my gosh, this life is not permanent, it'll be very painful for you. Or also, if you're holding on to material objects or relationships, your money, things like this, you won't want to let go when you're getting closer and closer to death. So it'll be very painful. So you need to eliminate your craving, desire, attachment of wanting any of this stuff to be permanent, including the life itself and all these material objects and relationships. So there's work that you need to do in order to train your mind to let go, so that by the time you get to death, you've already let go of everything. And that's the beauty about the teachings of the Buddha, is that you can see your mind becoming more and more peaceful as you're getting closer and closer in your life, and you're moving closer and closer to this enlightened mental state. You can see that your mind's becoming more peaceful, because you know in situations where you get angry and frustrated, and now when you're in that same situation and you're not experiencing those feelings, you'll know that it's these teachings that are helping you to do that. So all of you guys are just hearing a little bit about true love here, and I'm just going to kind of wrap this up with talking about loving oneself, even though I have these other topics that I typically talk about here. We had lots of questions, so I just decided to answer those. But I'll talk about loving oneself, and then I'll just kind of close up the class, is that oftentimes people have trouble loving themselves. Even though we said that there is no self, there is a being here that is in existence. And sometimes you might have difficulties loving yourself. It's coming from the same problem where you're having difficulties loving others. It's because of expectations. It's because of craving, desire, that you're wanting this other person to be a certain way. And now when they're not that way, you feel like you can't love them. Well, the same thing happens with yourself too, is you might be putting expectations on yourself, trying to expect yourself to do things a certain way. And now you're craving that. You're longing, yearning, wanting and expecting it. And you can only be happy if you get what you want. So you need to be able to get to the point where you have goals, you have objectives, you have certain interests that you're working towards with wise decision making, but you're not burdening yourself with these expectations. But instead, you're just making wise choices to gradually work towards your goals, objectives, and interests, realizing that sometimes you're not going to get there in the time frame that you normally would be interested to get there, and that's okay. That's just impermanence, that you plan to get to this goal in 6 weeks, but you know what? You're at 6 weeks and you haven't gotten there yet. And that's okay, right? Just keep making wise decisions to get to that goal. You know, the Buddha had a goal to share his teachings throughout the entire world. That was his actual goal, that his teachings would reach the entire world. But he knew that it wouldn't happen during his lifetime, because he lived in a certain region of the world that we refer to as Northeast India. And he spoke a language that not the entire world didn't speak. At that time, there wasn't an international language. So here we are 2,500 years later, and his teachings are actually reaching the goal that he first set out to, is that his teachings are actually reaching the entire world, because we have an international language now, and we have the internet to be able to send teachings with the press of a button across the world. And we have ease of travel, where we can easily travel throughout the world. So the Buddha had a certain goal that he was working towards that he knew that he would never achieve during his life. And that's something that you're going to need to learn how to do, is gradually work towards a goal, realizing that you may or may not actually obtain it. And you can still maintain your peace and your joy, and you can still maintain your love for yourself, meaning you have a genuine interest in seeing yourself be well, and that you're not burdening yourself with expectations and trying to, be diminishing and degrading to this being who you are just because you're not meeting your goals in the time frame that you had planned to meet them. So you can lay down that burden of constantly burdening yourself with all these goals. Burdening yourself with all these expectations, but instead work towards goals, objectives, and interests gradually through wise decision making. So there's more here for you guys to learn. And in chapter 15 of this first book, I go into detail about true love and helping you to understand more about true love. If you guys would like to learn that, you're welcome to do that. And I gave you all the ways that you can get access to this. If you guys would like to learn more, I'm going to take a break here for a little bit, and then I'm going to come back and teach another topic. so that you guys can learn about how to have relationships with people who aren't actually practicing these teachings, because it's wonderful when you're with a big group of people who are practicing these teachings, but what do you do when you're actually around people who aren't practicing these teachings? And that's what I'm going to teach after the break. So I'm going to take about a 20-minute break. It's now 11:05, so at 11:25 I'm going to pick up with that topic. So I'll just end by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest to learn and grow and develop into a better and better human being. If you guys would like to learn more, we actually have classes, courses, retreats here. We have social events. You can find all the details for this on our bulletin board over there. You'll also find it on our website as well. So whatever you choose to do today, have a very wonderful and lovely rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Sawadee khap. Sawadee khap. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.